How do you feel about your own involvement in this now? I mean, do you feel responsible for what happened?
Yeah, I do. I do feel responsible for it. It's something that I regret. And that's partly why I'm here talking to you, so that I can talk to, so that people can know about what this company does, what this company is. Throughout history, you have examples of grossly unethical experiments.
And is that what this was?
I think that, yes, it was a grossly unethical experiment, because you are playing with an entire country, the psychology of an entire country, without their consent or awareness. And not only are you playing with the psychology of an entire nation, you're playing with the psychology of an entire nation in the context of the democratic process. My name is Christopher Wylie. I'm a data scientist, and I helped set up Cambridge Analytica. It's incorrect to call Cambridge Analytica a purely sort of data science company or an algorithm, company. It is a full-service propaganda machine. If you can control all of the streams of information around your opponent, you can influence how they perceive that battle space, and you can then influence how they're going to behave and react. Alexander Nix, where do I begin? He is not the easiest person to work for. He's ambitious. He cares more, I think, about winning than what we actually did at the company. He's an upper-class Etonian who expects people to follow him wherever he goes. When I first met him, I knew he was Steve from America. And then later I got told he was the editor of Breitbart. I'd heard of Breitbart, it's the blog for angry white men to rant about whatever. Steve Bannon saw himself as an intellectual. We would need to sort of present ourselves in a way that was more academic, more sort of ideas focused and all that. Alexander realized that we needed a Cambridge site. And so we set up a fake office in Cambridge. And whenever Steve would come, we would bring a bunch of people from the London office, plop them into the Cambridge office, and give Steve the impression that we had a lot of our operations based out of the university. We changed how he perceived who we are and what we were doing. And it was his idea, Steve's idea, to give the company the name Cambridge Analytica. This sort of warped perception is infused into the name Cambridge Analytica itself.
So you psyopsed Steve Bannon, basically?
In a way, he was a target audience of one.
And you changed his perception of reality? And
we changed his perception of who we were and what we were doing and what the situation that he was in, yeah.
And then from there, it was like you took that to America, to change the perception of reality for America.
Yeah. And the reason why he was interested in this is because he follows this idea of the Breitbart doctrine, which is that if you want to change politics, you first have to change culture, because politics flows from culture. And so what I said is that if you want to change culture, you have to first understand what the units of culture are. People are the units of culture. So if you want to change politics, you first have to change people to change the culture.
Did that fit in with, he had quite a famous expression about politics being war.
If you want to fight a battle, or you want to fight a war, you want to win a war, you need weapons for that. He wanted cultural weapons, and we could build them for him. But obviously he needed money to do it. So he took it to Robert Mercer.
Who's Robert Mercer?
He is an American billionaire in New York. And before he got rich through algorithms. Alexander Nix is with me, and he starts with his sort of razzle dazzle. We work for the Pentagon, we work for MOD, MI6, da 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 da. We are brilliant and have eaten and whatnot, and I'm a posh British man, and you should trust me with all your money. Essentially, the pitch was that we were going to combine micro-targeting, which had existed in politics, which was in part my background, but bring on boards new constructs from psychology, so that we wouldn't just be targeting you as a voter, we'd be targeting you as a personality. And in order to scale that, we would then be collecting a lot of data on people, so that we could build a psychological profile of each voter in a particular region, or in this case, all of the United States. Alexander was quite excited. He got a bottle of champagne. We had a saber in the office, sabered the champagne. But then the next day it was sort of like, okay, now what? You get all this money and you've got a billionaire breathing down your neck going, why don't I have it yet? I've just given you tens of millions of dollars, and like, where's my psychological warfare weapon? I needed to figure out a way of getting data. And so I went to these profs and asked, like, what do you think, right? So we've done all these cool pilots, but how would you do this for like an entire country? What Kogan offered us was something that was way cheaper, way faster, and of a quality that nothing matched. They had apps on Facebook that were given special permission to harvest data, not from just the person who used the app or joined the app, but also it would then go into their entire friend network and pull out all of the friends' data as well. So if one person, if you joined the app, I would not just see your Facebook profile, I would see all of the Facebook profiles of everybody that you're friends with. We would only need to touch a couple 100,000 people to expand into their entire social network, which would then scale us to most of America.
And people had no idea that their data was being taken in this way?
No, if you were a friend of somebody who used the app, you would have no idea that I've just pulled all of your data. It was almost everything that would be on a Facebook profile. So that was things like status updates, likes, in some cases private messages.
So Cambridge Analytica has people's private messages they sent on Facebook?
I can't say whether they did or not. What I'm saying is what the app could do.
So you didn't ever stop and think, actually, this is people's personal information and we're taking it and we're using it in ways that they don't understand. You didn't think, actually, I'm not sure about this.
The company, we didn't do a good job at due diligence. So no, we didn't.
But what about you? Not just the company, your involvement in that?
No, I mean, we were solely focused on getting this data and doing this experiment.
How many profiles were you pulling?
Tens of millions, upwards of 50, 60 million profiles were collected in a 2 or 3 month period. When Alexander Nix told the parliamentary inquiry on fake news that Cambridge Analytica has never used Facebook data, at least from when I was there, that's just fundamentally not true, because we spent $1 million harvesting tens of millions of Facebook profiles, and those profiles were used as the basis of the algorithms that became the foundation of Cambridge Analytica itself. The company itself was founded on using Facebook data.
So you've harvested my data, and then you've used that to target me in ways that I can't see and that I don't understand.
Yeah, so we would know what kinds of messaging you would be susceptible to, including the framing of it, the topics, the contents, the tone, whether it's scary or not, that kind of thing. So what you would be susceptible to and where you're going to consume that. And then how many times do we need to touch you with that in order to change how you think about something? in addition to having, data scientists and psychologists and strategists, they also have an entire team of, creatives, designers, videographers, photographers. They then create that content. That gets then sent to a targeting team, which then, injects it into the internet. Websites will be created, blogs will be created, whatever it is that we think this target profile will be receptive to, we will create content on the internet for them to find. And then they see that and they click it and they go down the rabbit hole until they start to think that, until they start to think something differently. Yeah. Instead of standing in the public square and saying what you think and then letting people come and listen to you and have that shared experience as to what your narrative is, you are whispering into the ear of each and every voter, and you may be whispering one thing to this voter and another thing to another voter. We risk fragmenting society in a way where we don't have any more shared experiences and we don't have any more shared understanding. If we don't have any more shared understanding, how can we be a functioning society?
Thinking about that now, do you think that did change America or played a part in it?
I think it probably played a part. I can't say, for sure whether, what was the defining factor in getting Trump elected or growing the alt-right. If you want to fundamentally change society, you first have to break it. And it's only when you break it is when you can remold the pieces into your vision of a new society. This was the weapon that Steve Bannon wanted to build to fight his culture war.
So, who do you trust?
This is such a hard question to answer. Who do I trust? I don't want to say I don't trust anyone. But do you know what I would say? I would say I go through life with a healthy dose of skepticism. And I think that healthy dose of skepticism as to what you're seeing and what you're hearing and who you're talking to is the best way to go through life.